everybody, and welcome to another episode of Robyn Makes Sense, where tonight we are going to dive into the topic and make sense of inflammation. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate to having allergies, arthritis, headaches. This is all triggered by inflammation in your body, and we're going to break that down for you tonight and kind of go through what are some of the things that you can do to lessen this pain and lessen the triggers in your body. So inflammation is not always a bad thing. Let's say that off the bat. I mean, it's basically it's a response to an injury or an infection. So if you have an infection, your body it's a response to that. So basically, the body signals the immune system to heal and repair damaged tissue by releasing chemicals from white blood cells into the blood and increases blood flow to that area. So that's kind of the definition of inflammation. So we'll just break that down for you a little bit. So basically, if you injure yourself and you bang yourself, you get an injury. Your body sees that as it's an internal injury, so it's going to send some blood to the area to heal it or repair it. If you have sinuses or allergies and you're breathing in the pollen or dust or pet hair, that your body sees that as a foreign object and it's going to try and get rid of it. It's a natural way to do that. When you sneeze, that's your body's way of getting things out of that area. It doesn't belong there. Same thing when you cough, your body wants to clear out its lungs. Body is actually pretty amazing in the regard that it'll try to repair itself pretty quickly, and it's pretty. When you really dive into it, it's pretty interesting. I find it interesting anyway. So tonight we're going to talk about inflammation, and let's start with some of the symptoms. So usually there's pain, there's pressure, often redness, swelling, loss of function. Sometimes certain parts of your body may swell, and you may not be able to use that part of your body. If you ever have like a back injury or an arm injury, you start to feel like it's limp, you can't use it, or your back is tense, you're struggling. We'll get into backaches another night, but that could be a whole nother live on its own with what I've learned with backaches. Anyway, totally diverting. Okay, so first I want to tell you about the Caregiver Webinar that I'm starting this week, which is free to people. So if you're interested in that, you can go register. I'm going to put the little thing at the bottom so you see that. Now let's get back to what we were talking about. So we're now, what is inflammation? Let's talk about the triggers, okay? So triggers for inflammation, basically it's a foreign invader. That's pretty much what the trigger is. And that foreign invader could be food. It could be an outside influencer, such as things that are, smoking, pollen, dust, that kind of stuff. Bacteria. And we're going to focus on those three specifically today. So back to food. So food, your body sees certain foods as a foreign invader if it doesn't recognize it. It doesn't know how to break it down. Now, some of this goes back to the gut health live that we did the other night, where basically certain things, the way that it breaks down in your gut, your body breaks down certain foods better than others. And other foods trigger things within your body. So things that can be triggered could be high blood pressure, high cholesterol. You can increase your blood sugar. Certain things that get absorbed or filtered through your liver or your kidney can also trigger if it's not something that should be there normally. All triggers basically mean that something is wrong and it's causing an inflammatory response. So the inflammatory response, like I said earlier, is basically your body signaling the immune system, saying something is not right, something needs to be healed, there's a foreign object in here we need to get out. So your immune system, which we've learned a lot about recently with everything going on, is it's your body's way of fighting, okay? So it's going to trigger that immune response. Let's repair what needs to be repaired. Let's get rid of what doesn't belong in here. So those are natural ways for your body to fight these things. And with gut health, within outside influencers, let's get back to that, there are airborne viruses like we're dealing with now. That's outside influencer. Smoking is also a trigger for inflammation. You're depriving your body of oxygen. Your body doesn't know what to do with that smoke. Doesn't recognize it. Pollen, which is where a lot of your allergies come in. Dust, when you're dusting, people have allergies to dust. Pet hair, those are all outside influencers that trigger an immune response that something is not right or something is foreign in your body. Bacteria that you can get from food. If you have, people get food poisoning or bacteria, that triggers an immune response. If you get injuries or you get cuts, that triggers an immune response. If you have an internal infection from, whether it's like a UTI or something, you just getting an infection, that all triggers inflammation. So the gut health is a big trigger for an inflammatory system. It goes back to the breaking down of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. And for more information on that, you can watch the other live. I'll post the link if you're interested. We're going to discuss some of the foods to avoid, right? So most foods that cause inflammation or trigger inflammation are going to be the foods that are bad for you, that we all know, but yet we love them. And these are going to be foods like table sugar. Table sugar is probably one of the worst things for you. And I say this with do as I say, not as I do, because I am a huge sugar addict. I have sugar a lot, and it's the worst thing for your body, and for so many reasons, and I know this, but table sugar. So that's not including sugars that are in like fruits and veggies. Those are natural sugars. Your body knows how to break those down. So table sugar is actually not natural, so it doesn't know how to break that down. Trans fats, which include margarine, fried foods that are fried in vegetable oil or soybean oil or seed oils, essentially. Refined carbs, which basically a refined carb is if it doesn't have fiber in it. So it means that all the fiber was pretty much taken out, which is your white rice, your white bread, things like that. So basically it doesn't have fiber. Those are your refined carbs. These raise blood sugar levels, therefore triggering this inflammatory response. Alcohol is another one. It causes leaky gut, which basically runs right through your intestine, causing, something's wrong with the body. So it's going to prompt the inflammatory response. Now, here was one that I'm sure most people would not be happy about, and I was a little surprised myself, was the processed meat. I didn't realize how many actual things fall under that category. And the processed meat is basically, if it's processed by cooking it at a very high temperature, dry heat cooking at a high temperature, it creates a chemical reaction in the meat. So it's basically those meats that have, when the sugar combines with amino acids found in certain proteins and fats, and that causes something called AGEs. I'm not going to get too technical with you. That's a whole nother topic, but that's basically what it causes, and it creates the the inflammatory response, therefore triggering the immune system to send more blood flow to that area to heal. So those things are like sausage, bacon, ham, beef jerky. So dried meats, essentially. So if you cook your burger and you cook it really well and it's dry, that's something that would trigger. But or let's go with chicken. So if you cook chicken on the grill, even though it's a healthier way of cooking chicken on the grill, it still would prompt an inflammatory response. But if you boil the chicken because you were making chicken soup, that would not prompt an inflammatory response because there's still moisture in the chicken. It's the dry meats that cause it. And certain meats have higher age levels, so that's something that could be looked at further if you needed to look at that. Now here are some anti-inflammatory foods. So of course, these are going to be the foods that are good for you, such as vegetables, fruits, lettuce, brown rice, onions, almond butter, garlic, lemons, wild salmon, avocado oil, bee pollen, cherries, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, bone broth. These are all things that actually cause anti-inflammatory. So your body may be triggered by certain things that are inflammatory, but eating these foods help lower that. They help reduce the swelling and producing other chemicals, and also because they're producing more vitamins to help boost the immune system to help fight and repair and move on quickly. So those are some foods that you should be considering switching out to. I am going to just stop for a second and touch on the bee pollen, because I'm a huge condoner of bees. Like I feel I'm for those that know me know how much I am pro Manuka honey and its properties and how it has helped me and my family and so many people I know in so many different ways. I also am a big proponent of bee pollen. So bee pollen helps build antibodies to stop the immune response. So for those that have a lot of allergies, and I've done this myself, and I know other people that have, if you have locally grown honey on a regular basis, so let's say you go get it's got to be within your region. You're not going to be living in New York and order honey from California. That's not going to help you. You need to get New York locally. It doesn't have to be your exact area, but if you're in New York, then get honey within the 5 boroughs, or honey in that central New Jersey area. So, and taking that honey, like in small doses throughout the winter, your body builds up antibodies against that pollen, because it's getting it in such small doses, so that once the season comes, the allergy season, and that pollen is going into, because the honey has small bits of the pollen. So once the allergy season comes and that pollen goes into, you're breathing it in, your body's not going to see it as a foreign object. So you're not going to have a ton of allergies and sneezing and sinus pressure. You're not going to have all that pressure and inflammation from the swelling and the immune response, because your body doesn't see it as a threat. It recognizes the pollen because you've been eating it all winter long, so it sees it, in small doses, so it recognizes it. So those are some ways to get around the triggers. That's what, but in that way, it's building the antibodies. And I don't know if that would work with bacon per se, but but with bee pollen, that would absolutely help with allergies. And I highly recommend it to so many people. Just having like a small spoonful in a cup of tea, or, in a yogurt or on cereal or something, or just take a spoonful straight up. It's honey, it's sweet. But it needs to be raw, unprocessed honey, locally grown, and you will find that it definitely helps you with the allergies. So another thing I often tell people with when they have swelling, especially pressure headaches and things like that, is naproxen. Naproxen is a generic NSAID that's also found in ibuprofen and Aleve. And I know that a lot of people can't take it. You should not be taking anything without checking with your doctor or pharmacist to make sure that it mixes with your medications. So things like, you should not be taking, any sort of NSAID with blood thinners. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. So just make sure that you check with your doctor or pharmacist. But naproxen, Aleve, ibuprofen, those that have NSAIDs in them, they reduce the inflammation because they block the enzyme signaling injury causing the immune response. So when your body is saying, hey, I have allergies from the flowers and stuff, and you take naproxen, it's going to block that. So it's not, your body's not going to say, hey, there's a foreign object, let me go in there and repair it. It's actually blocking that response, which is one of the main reasons why I'm sure you've heard on the news and through other forums that anybody who was diagnosed with COVID-19 should not be taking any sort of NSAID. Or if you have an immune disorder, you should not be taking it, because it basically is messing with your body's natural way to fight things off. So if your body is trying to fight off something that it should be, like if you, let's say if you had cancer or you had an infection and you're taking something like that where your body's natural response is, I need to fight this, let's send all the little guys fighting, the immune health. You don't want to block that response, because then you're hurting yourself, and your body's not repairing itself. It's not doing its job, because now you're blocking that. So that was, and with the whole COVID situation, you only have your immune health really as your defense. Having a strong immune system is really what's keeping people, from going one way or another, is their immune response system. So that is why that has been on the absolutely do not take during this time if you think you have it. So that is my spiel. I'm going to look at some of the comments and see, if there's any questions. Certainly reach out. Yes, Christine. So consuming honey, as long as it's raw, unprocessed honey, locally grown, before allergy season, not during allergy season. You want to consume it before allergy season, so that you can build up the antibodies for that pollen, and your body will recognize it, so it wouldn't be a foreign and it wouldn't cause the swelling. Because that's really what it comes down to when you have sinus issues. When you have sinus issues, it's because there's an irritant up in your nose. That's really what. But you breathe. You took a breath through your nose. Something got up there, whether it was dust, whether it was pollen. And that seasonal time of year, there's more pollutants in the air, and then that's what causes it, and it just causes swelling, and that's what that crazy pressure that you feel in your head, like all up in here, it's swelling. It's because you're blocking your nasal passages. You're blocking, same thing, like people get it in their ear. You get swelling that goes into your ear because your canal, it's supposed to open and close, but if it's swollen shut, it's not releasing pressure and there's no liquid going out. So because there's an injury there, your body's recognizing something as a foreign object or an injury. So I'm hoping that understanding inflammation and what it really is and what it's doing, what's going on in your body, helps you to understand how to heal yourself and how to allow your body, what the heck, all right, how to allow your body to heal itself. Because if you give your body the right resources and the tools that it needs, the body's amazing. It will take care of itself. And, part of that is, that's why they say your body's a temple. Make sure you're only putting good things in it, because, and I again, do as I say, not as I do, but basically by giving yourself the proper nutrition, your body can heal itself over time. Absolutely. And, so outside influencers, proper gut health, trigger foods, things to stay away from, things to include in your diet. If you have a lot of swelling and inflammation, arthritis, knowing that there's something going on, and a lot of times just certain foods, when it goes through your digestive tract, can prompt inflammation throughout your whole body, through all of your major organs, because as we learned from the last one, where things break down in part of your intestine and where it's absorbed, and having good gut bacteria and bad gut bacteria can make a huge impact in your body's way to heal. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope that you learned something new. And you know, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments, and I'll answer them. And I'm hoping to see some of you on the Caregiver Webinar. We're going to be going through different topics. It's going to be a weekly thing, free, and we're going to be diving deep into certain topics, from things like being prepared when you're not sure what to prepare for, and also, you know, taking care of yourself, how self-care is very important, safety, patient safety, making sure that things around your house are very safe, and some things that you can do and implement, you know, questions that you may have for certain doctors, like some basic things that you want to know. So each week is going to be a different topic, so register for the series, and you'll get an email with what the topic is, and you know, I look forward to seeing you all there. Christine, absolutely. Christine, if you start taking the honey now, it would probably help you come the fall. So you just need a couple of months to build up, you know, the immunity with it. So if you start taking honey now, it'll help you by the fall, which is really, I know when my allergies used to bother me, it was mostly in the fall, but it was like the hay, you know, the hay fever and the I don't remember what flowers used to bother me. You don't like honey? Well, it's extremely sweet when it's raw and unprocessed, because the stuff that you buy on the shelves, like in the Bear and a lot of those brands, that's just pretty much sugar. If it's processed and was cooked, that's, at the end of the day, that's just sugar. So support your local bee farmers, and, you know, go buy some from them. I'm sure everybody has farmers markets here and there now again, and you can order things online. I know there's plenty of them in the New York, New Jersey area that they're bee farmers, and they sell them online, and you can buy them. I've even bought where I had the whole honeycomb, because there's a lot of health benefits to getting the whole honeycomb in it. Although I didn't really like that because it was just lax and wasn't my thing. But I had the cornbread. Yep, I know people that they're big with the cornbread and the honey, and I think I don't remember if it was cream cheese or some sort of cheese that they put on it, with the cornbread and the honey. But basically, you can dilute it, Christine, put it in water if you want to, you know, because it's still going into your body. If you need to dilute it in a cup of water and put some lemon and some ginger, and you have like a little iced tea, lemon, ginger, honey, you know, make it a cold drink. And so that's it, my friends. And definitely the honey has so many good benefits to you. You know, I know that I use like the Manuka honey. It filters, like medical grade Manuka honey. We'll do another live on that, but it filters the liver and the kidneys, and it helps with a lot of helps with acid reflux. There's so many. We're going to do another live on Manuka honey, because otherwise I'll be here till all night. So that's it. Have a good night, everybody, and I hope to see some of you or all of you on the Caregiver Webinar on Wednesday.